Hi friends, it is time for another dyeing adventure, and this week I am inspired to dye something in the Marigold colorway, something like Marigold Clementine, like this deep orangey, maybe with a little bit of red or something. We'll see. The yarn I've chosen is this fingering weight superwash merino. There's some nylon in it as well, and it has 5% of gold stellene. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but I thought that would be really pretty with the deep orange and, you know, like a marigold flower. So that's what we're going to do this week, and as usual we're starting off with soaking the yarn.
You got me feeling good, right by your side, lost in every move, riding down your...
So first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up each one of these and put one of these reusable zip ties on it. I use reusable for environmental reasons, of course. And you just put it through like so, and close it, and you just push here to open it. So absolutely reusable. There we go. And I'm going to do the same with the other three skeins. Just shake them a little bit, get some air in between the strands. And the third one. And the last one. Like so. And I soak them in cold water. I have just a regular plastic tub. I always add in about a tablespoon of citric acid in the soak water as well. You don't have to do it, you can omit that and only use citric acid in the pan you're dyeing in, but I prefer to do a little bit of both just to make sure. And I'm adding cold water, about 4 liters. There's 2 in each can here, like so. And we're going to grab the yarn. I grab them by the zip ties. There we are. There we go. I'm just adding them to the soak. And then just push it down to make sure everything gets wet. You don't want any part of your yarn to be dry when you're dyeing, because they are not going to get some dye then. The dye won't stick to dry yarn. So it needs to be cold. Well, cold too, but it needs to be wet. Well, there we are. I'm going to let that sit for about 30 minutes and we'll be ready to dye. The yarn has soaked for a while and we are getting ready to dye it. As always, wear a face mask to protect your airways, because this is a very, very fine powder and you don't want to breathe that in. I have also got a pair of gloves that I'm going to be using a little bit later. I have got a couple of teaspoons. Make sure you only use separate tools for yarn dyeing and not your regular kitchen tools. I've got the main dye that I'm going to be using, and this is Jacquard acid dye in the color golden yellow. And I've also brought out some fire red and a little bit of burnt orange so that I can maybe do some speckles or something. But this is the one with this is the one we are starting with today. I got an old empty yogurt container that I just have clear water in, and a spoon that I can use to poke the yarn while dyeing. And I have poured about 2 cups of water into one of these, and I'm going to mix the dye in here just to make sure that everything is properly diluted. So this is what the powder looks like. As you can see, it's very fine. So first things first, mask on. Okay. And now I'm going to add in about half a teaspoon of dye, I think. Like so. This is actually quite a lot. So these tiny cans really do go a long way. I'm adding that in there. And I'm using this little milk whisker. Again, only use have separate tools for your yarn dyeing and for cooking. You don't use the same. There we go. You need to rinse that a little. There we go. I'm also going to add in more water into this container. I'm going to fill the jug. It's about 2 liters. There we go. As you can see, it's quite a strong color. And then I will be adding just clear water in the other one and adding on if I need to. I will need a little bit more than just 2 liters. I'll probably need somewhere around 3 to 4 liters of water. So let's move over to the stove and start dyeing. So I'm using one of these large canteens to dye today. I'm using a large one since I have 4 skeins. And like I said, I usually do some citric acid in both the soaking water and as well as the dyeing pan. You can choose to do just one of them, that's just fine. And now I will be grabbing each skein that is soaking. I grab them by the zip tie, and I'm just squeezing out the water. Let me move you a little so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. Grab them by the zip tie, squeeze out the water. Just enough so I don't make a mess of it when I transfer all the skeins to the dyeing pan. There we go. And the last one. There we go. So the yarn is ready to be dyed. I'm going to turn on the stove. And I'm just going to add in all the dye that we made. And I'm going to add in some more water. While the pan starts heating. Now we're just going to, and the yellow color now in the water is just residue from the first mix that I made. So I haven't added any more color. Let's see, something like that, I think. And I'm grabbing my spoon. I'm just poking the yarn, because I want to make sure I get dye everywhere in here. And make sure that you do take extra care in the ends where the yarn is, the skein is folded like so. Because if it's folded, it is always a risk that you don't get the color in there properly. So in each end, it's very important to make sure you get all the dye in there. Now, as you can see, I do have some white spots here, and I'm not going to care too much about that. This is also quite a light yellow still, but I will be adding burnt orange as well. To top it off. Which will change the color of the entire pan. But for now, we're going to let it heat up a little bit, and I'll get back to you when it's time to add more color. So the temperature is starting to rise, and we're starting to get some more golden areas. And I'm going to go in with the burnt orange and deepening it a little bit. That's what that looks like. And again, put on the mask when you're working with the powder. And I'm just spreading it in there. See, we're getting a deeper orange here now. I'm going to tuck that in a little bit because I want this color to spread just ever so slightly. I don't want to go too hard in the beginning. The heat a little bit because it's not supposed to boil. Superwash yarn are more resistant to that, to any issues, but we still don't want it to boil, even though it is superwash. Poking the yarn to make sure I get dye everywhere, that I don't have large white patches underneath on the underside. Okay, I'm liking what's happening here, but I want to add more orange. I want to deepen the color even more. So we're going back again with more of the burnt orange. And I'm just grabbing a little bit of, not even half a teaspoon of dye at a time. just to make sure I don't get too much. And add in a little bit more there. So I want to have somewhat control over what's happening in the pan. And now I think we're starting to get somewhere. Just poking the patches where I added more dye, so it dissolves. So I'm not really looking for speckles now. I want to deepen the color in general. I can always move it around a little bit. Just grab some dye on the spoon and just pour it wherever I see fit. There we go. Just twisting and turning the pan to make sure everything gets seated. So now I'm going to just let this sit for a little while longer. I'll be poking it every now and then, turning the pan when needed, and just looking for the dye to exhaust so that the water is clear and not orange. So this here. The entire pan is hot all over now, and I just use my fingers and poke down. I don't recommend you do it, it's quite hot, but if you do, be careful. And I've actually turned off the plate now, so I'm going to just let it sit because it's really warm. It's not supposed to boil, and it is almost to that temperature right now. So I'm just going to let it sit now and just let it exhaust the color in the pan while cooling off. And as a very, very last thing, I'm going to add a wee bit of fire red and just sprinkle that ever so slightly here and there. You can barely see it as it hits the pan, but it will start to bloom in a second, and you'll see more of it. There we go. And some tiny red speckles to top it off. And now we're just going to let it sit, cool off completely, and then we'll rinse it. And it's, as always, important that you let it sit and cool completely before rinsing it, because if there's any heat in the yarn and you put it on the cold water, you will shock the yarn and you will run the risk of ruining your project. So I'm gonna let this sit and I'll be back. It is time to rinse the marigold, and I gotta say I am very excited about what is in this pan. This looks so good. I can't wait to rinse it and see what it's going to look like once it's dry and all that. But first, let's start to rinse. It has cooled off completely now. The water is cold, the yarn is cold, and I will be using just this plastic tub to rinse the yarn in, using cold water. And I will be using soak, which is my favorite. Just add a little splash of that. And the great thing about soak is that you do not have to rinse more than once, even though it does foam a little. I do, however, do it twice, just out of habit, I guess, more than anything. So we're starting off by filling this tub with cold water and some soak. And we're going to transfer our dyed yarn from the dyeing pan to the rinsing pan, the rinsing tub. I don't know if can you see the sparkles in here? Maybe not. It looks very, very lovely. There we go. Now here's another good thing about the ties. It is very easy to find the skeins. So I'm just grabbing a tie, lifting it up, and I will be squeezing out the water a little bit. Just makes it easier to transfer it into the rinsing tub. So, and as you can see, the water is pretty much clear. There's a tiny hue of orange, not a lot at all. And as you saw, I did not use a lot of dye for this colorway, so those small containers really do go a long way. And the final one. Can you see the glitter? I can't tell if you can actually see it on camera. Hopefully you can. There we go. I'll put that in there as well. I'm just putting that dyeing tray to the side. And I'm just going to use the same tub that I use for soaking the yarn to just put it in. Put the skeins in after rinsing them. Squeezing out the water. You do not wring it with these skeins, just squeeze it. Some people use a salad spinner to get out more water. You can absolutely do that. I have done it a few times, but I honestly prefer to use just my hands. I'm not being too doing it too much right now because I will be rinsing it once more because, like I said, that's how I roll. Don't really have to, but I'm going to. Look at that color. This is fabulous. I love that. And the last one. This is also a good thing about these zip ties, that because of the foam, it's kind of hard to see what's down there in the water. And the zip ties help me find each skein without them being tangled to each other. There we go. Now there is, you can see here, there's some orange hue to the water here, which means we did have some extra dye left over in those skeins after all. It may also be speckles of dye that have been sitting on the zip ties. That also happens. So I'm going to be rinsing once more. And then we're going to hang them to dry. So, I'll be rinsing once more and I'll get back to you.
You got me feeling good, right about your side. Lost in every move, riding down your smile. Baby, hold me tight, let me trace your lies. Keep it low, cause you're dropping it down.
Are you ready to see the pretty yarn we made? I'm very excited about this one. How about that? Absolutely love it. Can you see that it's sparkly? I'm having the hardest time catching the sparkles on camera, but they are there. So this is what we made this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got inspired. I would love to see what you make, if you make your own version of Marigold. And if you want to follow along for more yarn dyeing inspiration, don't forget to subscribe. I will be uploading videos every week, every Wednesday. There's a new yarn dyeing video out for you. Also, if you have any thoughts and ideas of what you think I should dye and put on the channel, let me know. Leave your suggestion in the comments below. I'd love to hear that. But yay, the marigold is done. I think I'm gonna have to knit myself something for summer in this. That's it for this week. I hope to see you again next week, and until then, bye.
You got me feeling good, right about your side. Lost in every move, riding down your smile. Baby, hold me tight, let me trace your lies. Keep it low, cause you dropping it down.